He looked at her name tag, Amara, then at the way her shoulders curved inward like she was trying to disappear, and he smiled. Not a warm smile, a predator's smile. Kim Tae-jin didn't come to Magnolia House, Connecticut's most exclusive Korean fusion restaurant, to eat. He came to remind people who owned the room. The waitress standing before him, with her box braids tied back and her second-hand shoes scuffed at the toes, wasn't a person to him. She was a stage prop, a punching bag wrapped in an apron. He thought switching to Gyeongsang Sadori, an old, obscure Korean dialect from the southern mountains, would strip her bare in front of his associates. He thought he was untouchable. He thought wrong. What Tae-jin didn't know was that Amara Osei wasn't just a waitress, and the 3 words she was about to speak in flawless, aristocratic Korean would not only silence the table, they would unravel his empire piece by piece. If you think you know how this story ends, I promise you don't. So stay with me, because what happens next will leave you speechless. This is the story of how power met its match. The dining room of Magnolia House smelled like soy-glazed short ribs, imported sesame oil, and wealth so thick you could choke on it. Amara Osei moved between the tables like a ghost, her reflection barely visible in the polished black marble floors. It was 9:47 p.m. on a Saturday. The dinner shift was in its final brutal stretch. Her feet screamed inside shoes held together with superglue and prayer. She had been standing for 11 hours straight. Table 6 wanted their banchan refilled. Table 9 sent back the kimchi jjigae because it was too authentic. Move faster, Osei. The hiss came from Manager Choi, a wiry man in his 50s who treated the waitstaff like servants in a Joseon-era drama. He stood near the host's stand, arms crossed, watching her like a hawk. Yes, sir, Amara whispered, grabbing a tray of small ceramic dishes. She kept her head down. She had learned early that eye contact invited cruelty here. Amara Osei was 28 years old. To the guests at Magnolia House, she was invisible until they needed something. She was the hand that poured the soju, the shadow that cleared the plates, the target that absorbed their frustration when the soup was too hot or the music too loud. They didn't see the exhaustion carved into her face. They didn't know that 2 years ago, Amara had been a graduate linguistics researcher at Yale, specializing in East Asian dialectology and minority languages. She had been writing her dissertation on the preservation of endangered Korean regional dialects, Jeju, Gyeongsang, Hamgyong, the ones being erased by Seoul's standardization. She had been brilliant. She had been funded. She had been free. Then the call came. The late-night call that changes everything. Her younger brother, Isaiah, the car accident, the traumatic brain injury, the hospital bills that swallowed her scholarship, her savings, her future like a sinkhole swallows light. She left New Haven overnight. She traded the library for the tray, the dissertation for the double shift. She did what she had to do to keep Isaiah in the rehabilitation center in Massachusetts, the one that cost $8,200 a month, the one that was teaching him how to speak again. Osei. Manager Choi snapped his fingers. VIP section. Table 1. Don't embarrass us. Amara's stomach dropped. Table 1 was the power table, the one with the view of the glass waterfall and the private sound system, the one reserved for men who made phone calls that ended careers. She turned toward the entrance. The host, a young girl named Hannah, was bowing so low her forehead nearly touched her knees. A group of men strode in, 6 of them, all in dark tailored suits, all moving with the synchronized menace of a wolf pack. At the center was Kim Tae-jin. Amara recognized him immediately, not from the reservation list, from the news. Kim Tae-jin was the CEO of Biko Exports, a shipping company with suspected ties to organized crime. The FBI had raided his warehouses twice. Both times, the evidence vanished. Both times, witnesses recanted. Tae-jin was untouchable, or so the rumors said. He walked like he owned gravity itself. Head high, eyes scanning the room not to see, but to conquer. His hair was slicked back with too much product. His suit was Italian, custom fitted to show off his build. He wore a watch that cost more than Amara would make in 5 years. Behind him trailed his crew. Silent, loyal, dangerous. This way, Mr. Kim, Hannah squeaked, her voice trembling. Tae-jin ignored her. He walked to table 1 and sat down, spreading his arms across the back of the booth like a king on a throne. His men flanked him on both sides. Amara took a slow breath. She smoothed her apron. Just get through this. Rent is due Wednesday. Isaiah's therapy is Tuesday. Don't mess up. She approached the table, her face a mask of polite neutrality. Good evening, gentlemen, Amara said softly. Welcome to Magnolia House. My name is Amara, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Tae-jin didn't look up. He was inspecting his chopsticks, turning them over under the light as if checking for contamination. Water, he said in English, his accent thick. Cold. And bring the menu. The private menu, not the one for tourists. Of course, sir, Amara replied. She glanced at the others. Anything for you, gentlemen? Silence. They stared straight ahead like statues. Tae-jin finally looked up. His eyes landed on Amara. He didn't look at her face. He looked at her shoes. Then her hands, chapped and dry from washing dishes when the kitchen was short-staffed. A slow smirk spread across his face. He had assessed her value in 2 seconds. 0. Wait, Tae-jin said sharply, just as Amara turned. She stopped. Yes, sir. Make sure the glass is clean, he said, loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear. Last time I was here, there were fingerprints. It's disgusting. You people need to pay attention to details. Heat rushed up Amara's neck, but she kept her face blank. I'll personally inspect every glass, sir. You do that, Tae-jin said, waving her away like swatting a fly. As she walked toward the service station, she heard him chuckle. She heard him switch to Korean. She heard every word. But he didn't know that yet. And that was his first mistake. Amara reached the bar, her hands shaking so badly she had to grip the counter to steady herself. The bartender, a Korean-American woman named Grace, leaned in and whispered, That's Kim Tae-jin. He's bad news. Last month he made a waiter cry and got him fired for bringing sparkling instead of still. I can handle him, Amara said, though her voice sounded hollow even to herself. Grace gave her a look that said, No, you can't. But Amara had no choice. She loaded a tray with water glasses, checked each one under the light for smudges, and walked back into the lion's den. Tae-jin and his crew were speaking in rapid Korean now. Low voices, sharp laughter. She approached carefully, setting the waters down with practiced precision. She was about to leave when Tae-jin's voice cut through the air. Stop. She froze. Yes, sir. Tae-jin leaned back, his eyes narrowing. You speak Korean? A little, Amara lied. It was safer to seem incompetent. Tae-jin grinned. He turned to his men and said something in Korean. They all laughed. Amara didn't react. She kept her face neutral. But inside, her heart was pounding because she had understood every single word. He had said, in Gyeongsang dialect, Let's have some fun with this one. These American girls don't know anything. Watch me make her squirm. Tae-jin switched to Korean fully now, his tone dripping with condescension. He spoke in the thick, old-fashioned dialect of South Gyeongsang province, a linguistic relic most Koreans under 50 couldn't even understand. It was a power move, a linguistic flex. He was speaking a Korean that wasn't taught in schools, a Korean that belonged to gangsters and grandmothers from fishing villages. He looked directly at Amara and said, in Gyeongsang Satori, Yeah, this girl looks tired, doesn't she? Probably works 3 jobs and still can't pay rent. I bet she doesn't even know what real Korean food tastes like. Probably eats McDonald's every night. Bring me the galbi, but tell the chef not to burn it like last time. And bring more banchan. The good stuff, not the trash you give to white people. If you can't understand me, just nod like a dog. That's what you're good for. His men roared with laughter. One of them slapped the table. Another raised his glass and mocked toast. The neighboring table shifted uncomfortably. A white couple looked away. An older Asian woman frowned, but said nothing. Manager Choi, watching from across the room, looked terrified. He mouthed to Amara, "Just smile and nod. Don't make trouble." Amara stood perfectly still. The noise of the restaurant faded into static. She saw Tae-jin's smug face. She saw his men grinning like hyenas. She thought about her brother Isaiah, lying in a hospital bed in Massachusetts, relearning how to say his own name. She thought about the $8,200 she needed every month. She thought about the years she had spent in archives, reading letters written by Korean independence fighters, studying the dying languages of Jeju Haenyeo divers, decoding the secret slang of 1940s freedom fighters. She thought about how people like Tae-jin, men who wore power like cologne, thought they could humiliate anyone beneath them without consequence. And something inside her snapped. Not loudly, not violently. It was a quiet, cold snap, like ice cracking on a frozen lake. She didn't reach for her notepad. She didn't call for Manager Choi. She simply clasped her hands in front of her apron, straightened her spine, and locked eyes with Kim Tae-jin. The silence stretched for 3 seconds. Tae-jin's grin began to falter. He expected confusion. He expected her to stammer in broken English and ask him to repeat himself. He expected submission. What he got was the opposite. Amara tilted her head slightly, and when she spoke, the entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. She didn't speak in English. She didn't speak in textbook Korean. She spoke in perfect, elevated, old-fashioned Gyeongsang Sadori, the exact dialect he had used. But hers was cleaner, sharper, more refined, the kind spoken by scholars and poets, not thugs. Her voice was calm, measured, and devastatingly precise. She said, "Geogyo, Yongbon Nim. Dang Shinui Mal Solun Joji Man, Munjing I Jom Iosiol Pubnida. Jalizio Jaga Daujazibnida. Galbi Noon Jamuni Haggis Subnida. Juligo Banchanoon Dangshanai Singaganoon Geospoda Deo. Joan Geos Euro Gigiota Diligis Subnida. Hajiman, Maluel Haltinian Jogiman Deo Yepuchasio. Yogi Yongbon Dual Jaisyoyo. Translation, slowly delivered in English overlay for the audience's understanding. Excuse me, sir. Your words are noted, but your phrasing is rather crude. Let me help you. I will order the galbi for you, and I will bring you banchan better than you seem to imagine exists. However, when you speak, please do so with a bit more grace. There are refined people present here. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Tae-jin's face went white, then red, then purple. His mouth opened. No sound came out. His crew stopped laughing. They stared at Amara like she had just pulled a gun. Manager Choi clutched his chest. Grace, behind the bar, whispered, "Oh my God." But Amara wasn't done. She switched to formal Seoul Korean, her enunciation perfect, her tone laced with razor-sharp politeness. "And one more thing, sir," she said. "The dialect you used is from South Gyeongsang, but you're mispronouncing the honorifics. If you're going to insult someone in Sadori, at least do it correctly. Otherwise, you just sound uneducated." She gave a small, respectful bow, as if she had just taken his order. Then she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving Kim Tae-jin and his empire sitting in a puddle of shattered pride. But this was only the beginning, because men like Tae-jin don't forgive humiliation, and what he did next would change everything. Amara made it 5 steps before her knees started to buckle. She pushed through the swinging kitchen door and collapsed against the cold metal prep table, her chest heaving. The sounds of sizzling woks and shouted orders surrounded her, but all she could hear was the blood pounding in her ears. What did I just do? The thought hit her like a freight train. I just humiliated a mobster. In his own language. In front of his crew. The kitchen staff stared at her. One of the line cooks, a middle-aged man named Miguel, paused mid-chop. "You okay, Amara?" "I'm fine." She lied. gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles went white. But she wasn't fine. She had just painted a target on her back. Men like Tae-jin didn't just let things go. They retaliated. And she needed this job. She needed every single tip from tonight. Isaiah's next round of therapy was in 4 days, and she was still $600 short. The door swung open. Manager Choi stormed in, his face twisted in panic. "Oh, say." His voice was shaking. "What did you say to him?" I answered his question in Korean. "Sir." In Korean? Choi grabbed her arm. "Do you have any idea who that man is? He could shut us down with one phone call." He could. Suddenly, the door burst open again. This time it was Hannah, the hostess. Her eyes were wide with terror. "Manager Choi," she gasped. "Mr. Kim is asking for you. And he's asking for her. He says she stole his wallet." Amara's blood turned to ice. "What?" "He's screaming," Hannah stammered. "He says he left his wallet on the table when he went to the restroom, and now it's gone. He's saying Amara was the only one near the table. He's calling the police." "No," Amara whispered. No. That's not true. I didn't." Choi wasn't listening. He was already moving, smoothing his hair, adjusting his tie. He looked back at Amara with something worse than anger. Disappointment. Maybe even belief. "Stay here," he ordered. "Don't move. Don't say anything. If he presses charges, I can't protect you." "But I didn't take anything," Amara pleaded. Choi hesitated for half a second. Then he walked out. The door swung shut. Amara stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by strangers who suddenly wouldn't meet her eyes. Miguel turned back to his cutting board. The dishwasher kept scrubbing. No one said a word. She felt it then. The presumption of guilt. The silent verdict. Because she was the help. Because she was black. Because Kim Tae-jin was rich and powerful, and she was neither. Her vision blurred with tears, but she blinked them back. She would not cry. Not here. Not for him. She untied her apron with trembling hands. If she was going to face this, she would do it with her head up. She pushed through the door and stepped back into the dining room. The scene was worse than she'd imagined. Kim Tae-jin was standing in the center of the restaurant, his voice booming. His face was flushed with rage, or a performance of it. He was pointing at Amara like she was a criminal. "There she is," he shouted in English, making sure everyone could hear. "The thief. I leave my table for 2 minutes, and my wallet disappears. Custom leather. $2,000 inside." And she was the only one who came near. The entire restaurant had gone silent. Phones were out. People were recording. An elderly white couple clutched their pearls. A young Asian family looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Manager Choi stood beside Tae-jin, wringing his hands. "Mr. Kim, please, I'm sure this is a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Tae-jin's voice cracked with mock outrage. "I want her searched. Now. Or I call the police and have her arrested for theft." Amara's heart was slamming against her ribs, but she forced herself to stay calm. She walked forward slowly. She stopped 10 feet from Tae-jin. "I did not take your wallet, Mr. Kim," she said, her voice steady. "And you know that." "Oh, I know that." Tae-jin sneered. "You're calling me a liar?" He turned to his crew. "Can you believe this? She insults me in Korean, and now she's calling me a liar." He stepped closer, invading her space. His breath smelled like expensive whiskey. "Empty your pockets," he hissed. "Right now? Or I will make sure you never work in this state again." The room was a pressure cooker. Amara could feel every eye on her. She could feel the weight of the accusation crushing her lungs. This was it. The moment where everything she'd worked for could disappear. Her job. Her credibility. Isaiah's care. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, a voice cut through the chaos. A voice that didn't belong to Manager Choi or the staff or any of Tae-jin's crew. It was a woman's voice. Calm. Clear. Commanding. That's enough. Every head in the restaurant turned. Standing near the entrance, partially hidden in shadow, was a woman Amara had never seen before. She was Korean, maybe in her early 50s, dressed in a sleek black suit that screamed old money. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun. Her expression was ice. She walked forward with the kind of authority that didn't need to be announced. It simply was. And Kim Tae-jin's face went pale, because he recognized her. And whoever she was, she terrified him. The woman moved through the dining room like a knife cutting silk. No hesitation. No wasted motion. She stopped 5 feet from Kim Tae-jin, and the air itself seemed to freeze. Her eyes, dark, sharp, unblinking, scanned him from head to toe. Not with fear, with disdain. Tae-jin's bravado flickered. For the first time all night, he looked uncertain. Director Yoon, he stammered, his voice losing its edge. I didn't know you were. Save it, the woman said in Korean. Her voice was quiet, but it carried like a judge's gavel. She turned to Amara. Are you all right? Amara blinked, stunned. Ah, yes, ma'am. Good. Director Yoon's gaze shifted back to Tae-jin. Now, Mr. Kim, about your missing wallet. Tae-jin straightened, trying to recover. It was stolen. She was the only one near my table. I have witnesses. Do you? Yoon's eyebrow arched. Because I have security footage. The restaurant went dead silent. Tae-jin's jaw tightened. What? This establishment is under the protection of the Beck and Yoon Financial Group, Yoon said coolly. We own 40% equity. Every table in the VIP section is monitored by overhead cameras. Shall I play the footage now, or would you prefer to check your jacket pocket first? The left interior pocket, to be specific. Tae-jin's face drained of color. His hand twitched. That's absurd. I wouldn't check it. The command was spoken softly, but it hit like a slap. Tae-jin's crew shifted uncomfortably. One of them whispered something under his breath. Another looked away. Slowly, reluctantly, Tae-jin reached into his jacket. His hand emerged holding a black leather wallet. The room erupted in whispers. Gasps. The white couple at table for exchanged horrified glances. Hannah, the hostess, covered her mouth. Manager Choi looked like he might faint. Amara felt her knees go weak, but she didn't move. She didn't blink. Director Yoon smiled. It was the smile of a predator who'd just cornered prey. How fascinating, she said. It seems your wallet was with you all along. Tae-jin's face turned crimson. This is a setup, he snarled. You planted it. I would never. You would, Yoon interrupted. Because this isn't the first time you've tried this trick. 3 months ago, you accused a bartender in New York of the same thing. She was fired. 2 years ago, a server in Massachusetts. She lost her housing. You have a pattern, Mr. Kim. And I've been watching. Tae-jin's fists clenched. He took a step toward Yoon, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. Do you know who you're talking to? Yes, Yoon said, not moving an inch. I'm talking to the man who runs Biko Exports, a company my firm has been investigating for money laundering, racketeering, and human trafficking. The room went cold. Tae-jin froze. You have no proof, he hissed. Not yet, Yoon agreed. But I will. And when I do, you won't just lose your business, Mr. Kim. You'll lose everything. She pulled a sleek phone from her pocket and held it up. One call to the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. One call to Immigration Enforcement. One call to the IRS. Should I start with all three? Tae-jin's breathing quickened. His crew looked at each other nervously. One of them stood up, clearly ready to leave. You can't do this, Tae-jin said, his voice shaking now. I have connections. Lawyers. So do I, Yoon said. Better ones. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire room. You thought you could humiliate a young woman because she was beneath you. You thought you could destroy her with a lie. But you made a mistake, Mr. Kim. You chose the wrong restaurant. And you underestimated the wrong waitress. She turned to Amara. This young woman speaks Gyeongsang Satori better than you do. She has a master's degree in Korean dialectology from Yale. She's published research on endangered regional languages. And you? She looked back at Tae-jin with utter contempt. You're just a thug in an expensive suit. Tae-jin stood there, trembling with rage and humiliation. His empire, his reputation, his power, all of it crumbling in real time. Get out, Yoon said, and don't ever come back. For a moment, it looked like Tae-jin might lunge at her. His fists were clenched, his jaw tight, but one of his crew grabbed his arm. Boss, let's go. Now. Tae-jin shook him off, but he didn't advance. He looked at Amara one last time. His eyes burned with hatred. This isn't over, he said. Yes, Yoon replied. It is. Tae-jin turned and stormed out, his crew scrambling behind him. The heavy doors slammed shut. The dining room erupted in applause. But Amara didn't hear it. She was staring at Director Yoon, her mind racing. Who are you? Amara whispered. Yoon smiled gently. Someone who's been looking for you for a very long time. The applause faded, but the electricity in the room remained. Amara stood frozen, her mind struggling to catch up with what had just happened. Director Yoon gestured toward a quiet corner booth. Let's sit, she said. You've been on your feet long enough. Amara hesitated, glancing at Manager Choi, who was still standing near the host's stand looking shell-shocked. He gave a frantic nod. Go, go. Amara followed Yoon to the booth. As soon as they sat down, Grace appeared with 2 glasses of water and a pot of tea, her hands shaking slightly. She set them down and whispered to Amara, You're a legend. Then she disappeared. Yoon poured the tea with practiced grace. She slid 1 cup toward Amara. Drink. You look like you're about to pass out. Amara took a sip. The warmth helped, but her hands were still trembling. Who are you? She asked again. My name is Yoon Mi-sun, the woman said. I'm the director of cultural preservation at the Beck and Yoon Foundation. We fund linguistic research, cultural archives, and endangered language preservation across East Asia and the diaspora. Amara's breath caught. The Beck and Yoon Foundation. She knew that name. Every linguist did. They were one of the largest private funders of humanities research in the world. I know who you are, Amara whispered. You funded the Jeju Haenyeo Oral History Project, the Zainichi Korean Archive. Yes, Yoon said with a small smile. And 3 years ago, we were preparing to offer you a full research fellowship, $90,000 a year, full benefits, housing stipend, research budget. You were going to study the preservation of Gyeongsang and Jeju dialects in immigrant communities. Amara felt the floor drop out from under her. You were going to offer me, but you vanished, Yoon continued. You withdrew from Yale. You stopped answering emails. We tried to find you, but you disappeared completely. Why? Amara looked down at her chapped hands. My brother, she said quietly. He was in an accident. Brain injury. I had to take care of him. I had to pay for his rehab. I didn't have a choice. Yoon's expression softened. So you gave up your future to save his. Amara nodded, her throat tight. And you've been working here ever since, Yoon said. Wasting your brilliance on people like Kim Tae-jin. I'm surviving, Amara said. That's all I can do right now. Yoon leaned forward. What if I told you that you don't have to just survive anymore? Amara looked up. What? The fellowship is still available, Yoon said. We never filled the position. We were waiting. For you. Amara's heart started pounding. I can't. My brother. Your brother is at Newbridge Rehabilitation in Massachusetts, Yoon said gently. I know. I looked into it after I saw your name on tonight's reservation system. I've been tracking mentions of your research for years. When I saw you were working here, I had to come see for myself. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a sleek business card. The Beck and Yoon Foundation has a partnership with the Choi Neurological Institute in California, Yoon said. It's one of the top brain injury treatment centers in the country. If you accept the fellowship, we can have your brother transferred there. Full coverage, cutting-edge therapy, and you'd be close enough to visit him every week. Amara's vision blurred. She couldn't breathe. That's not possible, she whispered. It's $15,000 a month. The foundation covers all medical expenses for fellows and their immediate family, Yoon said. It's part of the package. We believe that scholars shouldn't have to choose between their work and their loved ones. Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks. She didn't try to stop them. Why? She choked out. Why would you do this for me? Because tonight, I watched you stand up to a man who's terrorized people for years, Yoon said. I watched you use your mind as a weapon. I watched you refuse to be small. And I was reminded why we do this work, Amara. We invest in people who refuse to be broken. She slid the card across the table. The fellowship starts in 2 weeks. You'll be based in New York, working with our archival team. You'll have access to the largest collection of Korean diaspora oral histories in the world. You'll finish your dissertation. You'll publish. You'll teach. You'll live. Amara stared at the card. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely pick it up. What if I fail? She whispered. You won't, Yoon said simply. But if you stumble, we'll be there to catch you. That's what we do. Amara looked at this woman. This stranger who had appeared out of nowhere and dismantled her nightmare in minutes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Yoon said, smiling. Say yes, and let's change your life. Amara took a breath. She thought of Isaiah. She thought of the years she'd spent drowning. She thought of the future she'd thought was gone forever. Yes, she whispered. Then louder. Yes. Yoon reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Welcome back, Dr. Osei. But across town, in a penthouse office overlooking the city, Kim Tae-jin sat in the dark, staring at his phone. He wasn't finished. Not even close. And what he was about to do would force Amara to make an impossible choice. 3 days later, Amara stood in the lobby of the Beck and Yoon Foundation's New York headquarters, staring at the marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. She was wearing a second-hand blazer she'd bought from a thrift store in Connecticut, but for the first time in years, she felt like herself. Dr. Amara Osei. Researcher. Scholar. Survivor. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from the rehab center in Massachusetts. Isaiah spoke your name today. Clear as day. He's asking for you. She smiled, her chest swelling with hope. In 2 days, he'd be transferred to California. In 2 days, everything would change. Amara, a voice called. She turned. Yoon Mi-sun stood near the elevator, dressed in a charcoal suit, her expression warm. Ready? Ready, Amara said. They rode the elevator to the 7th floor in comfortable silence. When the doors opened, Amara stepped into a sprawling office filled with researchers, archivists, and linguists from around the world. A wall of bookshelves held texts in dozens of languages. Digital monitors displayed waveforms of recorded oral histories. This is your team, Yoon said, and this is your office. She opened a door to a small but beautiful space with a desk, a window, and shelves waiting to be filled. Amara's throat tightened. It's perfect. Yoon handed her a folder. Your first project. We've just acquired 200 hours of recorded interviews with first-generation Korean immigrants in California. Most of them speak regional dialects that are nearly extinct. We need you to transcribe, translate, and analyze them. It's exactly what you were born to do. Amara opened the folder, her hands trembling. This is everything I've ever wanted. Then let's get to work, Yoon said. But just as Amara sat down, Yoon's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her expression darkened. Excuse me, she said, stepping into the hallway. Amara tried to focus on the folder, but something fell off. A minute later, Yoon returned. Her face was grave. We have a problem. What is it? Kim Tae-jin just filed a lawsuit, Yoon said. Against you. Against the foundation. And against me. Amara's blood went cold. For what? Defamation. Slander. Emotional distress. He's claiming that you falsely accused him of theft, that I coerced him, and that the foundation is running a conspiracy to destroy his business. He's suing for $50 million. Amara felt the room tilt. That's insane. I didn't accuse him of anything. He accused me. I know, Yoon said, and we have the footage to prove it. But he's not trying to win, Amara. He's trying to bury you. Legal fees. Depositions. Court dates. He wants to make this so exhausting and expensive that you give up. He wants you to disappear again. Amara sank into the chair. So what do? We fight, Yoon said. But I need you to understand what that means. This will be public. Brutal. He'll dig into your life. Your brother. Your finances. He'll try to destroy your credibility. And even if we win, it could take years. Amara's hands clenched into fists. So he wins either way. Not if you're willing to stand, Yoon said quietly. Not if you're willing to let the world see who you really are. Amara looked out the window at the city below. She thought about Isaiah, about the fellowship, about the life she'd just been given back. And she thought about every person like her. People who'd been humiliated, silenced, erased by men like Tae-jin. She turned back to Yoon. I'll fight. Yoon smiled. Good. Because you won't be alone. 6 months later, the case was dismissed. Kim Tae-jin's assets were frozen pending a federal investigation. His company collapsed. And Amara Osei published her first paper in the Journal of Korean Linguistics. The title, Reclaiming the Margins, Preservation of Gyeongsang Satori in Diaspora Communities. It went viral, not just in academic circles, but everywhere. News outlets picked it up. Social media exploded. She became the face of a movement, proof that knowledge is power, that dignity can't be bought, and that the people society underestimates are often the ones who change it. 1 year later, Amara stood in a lecture hall at Columbia University, looking out at 300 students. Her brother Isaiah sat in the front row, smiling. He still had a long road ahead, but he was walking it. And so was she. She took a breath and began her lecture. In Korean, in Gyeongsang Satori, in the language of her ancestors, the language that had saved her life. And that is how a waitress with a gift for words took down an empire without raising her voice. It's a reminder that power isn't about money or fear. It's about knowing who you are and refusing to be silenced. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because stories like this, stories of resilience, justice, and triumph, are what we're all about. What would you have done in Amara's place? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, never underestimate the quiet ones. They might just be fluent in the language you're using to destroy them.